Hey guys, it's Kelly Dell here with Off the Beaded Path beadstore.com. I've got a fun project for you today that is bead embroidery, and it is very, very simple. We are going to be making the summer splash earrings. These are great because you can use leftover beads that you have. You can use a single color of bead. It is completely up to you. But let's go ahead and look at what you need to get started. To get started with our project, there's several things you're going to need. The first thing you're going to need is a piece of beading foundation. So this is stiff, and this is what we are actually going to stitch onto. You can use lacy stiff stuff. This is called beading foundation, whatever you want. You're going to need two pieces that are about 3 inches by 3 inches. You're going to need two pieces, 3 inches by 3 inches. That is called Ultra Suede. So Ultra Suede is a very soft, thinner fabric that you use here on the back to really cover up our beadwork and make it look nicer and finished. If you don't have Ultra Suede, it's okay. Felt will work as well. So don't worry too much about that. But we do have this available on the website. And again, it just covers up, makes it look really good. You're going to need whatever kind of beads you want. These are Preciosa seed beads that I use to kind of make a fun summery piece. The beads here on this one are, I believe these are Toho brand seed beads. Any type seed beads you have are going to work. You're also going to need something to make your template for the size of the earring that you want. So for this one, which is this piece right here, I actually used a roll of chain that I had to do the outer circle that I wanted. And then I believe I had a roll of this Ultra Suede, and that is what I used to trace out the center hole. Okay, if you wanted to do a bigger earring like this, I've got a larger roll of 1G, and you can see that outer edge is just a smidge bigger. So, you know, anything you can find to trace that is about the size of the earring you want will work. Now, this earring here, you'll notice that when I actually lay it down is smaller than that outer edge. And it's because you can do as many rows or as few rows as you want for these earrings. For this one, I did 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of 11s. And then this one, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I did 5 rows. So it's completely up to you. You can trim this down if you want to. But you're going to need templates for that. You are going to need E6000 glue. You're going to need thread. Today I'm using my KO thread. You're going to need a size 12 needle and a really sharp pair of scissors. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and lay whatever my outermost diameter is going to be. I'm going to lay that down on my foundation, and I'm going to trace it so that I have a circle of foundation. And then we want to cut this so that we have an outer piece. Once you have that piece, then I want you to go ahead and fold your piece in half one way and make a crease. Okay, so you can see that little fold and crease there. And then take and fold it the other way so that you can find the very center of your circle. So there is the center of my circle. Now you're going to take, and whatever you want to be that inner size, you are going to center your piece here and trace around this as well. Now, once you've traced it, you can use that circle that you've traced to now cut out. And there's a couple of really great ways you can do that is fold your piece in half and kind of snip straight in the middle of the circle. And then that will allow you to be able to cut it. You can also fold it like this and cut along one side. The only issue I have with doing it like that is that sometimes you don't get that hole nice like you want it to be, sometimes it'll leave a little funky spot on it. And I'll show you one that I cut out and I had messed up on right here along that edge, because when I hold it like this, it looks okay. But then when I open it up, you see right there where I had messed it up. So it's better just to snip around your edges to get that nice circle. So we're going to do 2 of these so that you will have your pair of earrings, and cut them all at once so that way they're both the same. Now comes the fun part. Go ahead and thread your needle with about 2 yards of thread. And down here at the very end, we're going to take and start a knot. But what I want you to do is I want you to take that thread and I want you to pass it through that loop you make several times. And then once you pull that down, use your thumb and your finger to kind of pull it down. And you can see there, I have a good size knot. Now here at the very end, I can either use my pair of scissors or I can use my thread zap or whatever I have to get rid of that excess thread. And all I'm left is that little loop. Now I'm going to take my circle and we're going to start on this inner side here of the circle. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass up from the back to the front. It's both the same, but right now you're going to say, okay, one side's going to be the back, which I normally have if I have any lines left, and one side is going to be the front. So you can see here, I'm passing up through the beadwork. I'm going to thread on 2 beads. I'm going to let these beads drop. You can see here I'm dropping all the way to the base where they're coming out. Then I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass down through the beadwork right after the second bead that I added. And do not do that. There we go. So when you do that, you just have 2 beads that are kind of sitting whoppy-jawed to each other. Now take your needle, come back up through the beadwork, and you're going to come back up right before the first bead you added. That's going to be that pink bead for me. So I'm going to come right up before it, and then I'm going to pass through those 2 beads again. And I'm just putting my thumb on it as I pull the thread straight out. Now I'm going to thread on 2 more beads. The first row is just 2 beads at a time because we have this little opening that we want to make sure that we don't have any thread showing or anything like that. So a couple little hints. Let me zoom in here for just a second. So a couple of little hints here for you is you want to, once you drop the beadwork down, if you want to take and put your thumbnail right here at kind of the curve that you've got there, and then pass the needle down through the beadwork. And now we want to count back 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to take the needle up through the foundation right before the 3rd bead. Pull through, and then go through the 3 beads. By keeping your fingernail right there, they kind of keep your beads in place as we're working and adding our beads. So it kind of helps them keep that curve that we want them to have. We don't want, massively straight lines in this since it's going to be a circle. So I'm going to put my thumbnail back there again. I'm going to bring the 2 beads down. I'm going to go down through the foundation right after the bead. Bring it through. Count back 3 beads. 1, 2, 3. Come up through the thread or the foundation right before that 3rd bead. And then pass through the 3 beads. Okay, I'm going to show you one more time. So we thread on 2 beads and let them fall. Pass down through the beadwork right after the 2nd bead that I added. count back 3, 1, 2, 3, and pass the needle up right before the third bead, and then pass through the 3 beads. So I'm going to do this around the inner circle. After you put in your last 2 beads, your piece should look something like this. One last thing that you want to do before you go on to the next row is you will actually want to take your needle and pass through all the beads of the row. So we're not going through the foundation at this point. We're just going to go through all the beads of the row just to connect all of them together really nicely and make them look a little bit better in our circle. Once you've gone all the way around, you're going to exit one of the 11s and pass your needle down through the foundation. Now you're ready to go on to row 2. So when we go to row 2, we're going to work it just like we did row 1, except for we're going to come up through the foundation right next to row 1, but we want to leave just enough room to put our beads in place. So we don't want to come up, say, right next to that blue bead. We want to come out just a little. And you have options at this point. Option 1 is you continue to work exactly like we did the first row, where we pick up 2 beads at a time, we let them drop, and work like that, just like we did. But then let me show you another way that I actually like to do from this point on. Row 1, we're kind of stuck. We have to do row 1 the way that it says to do it, because we can't have any threads showing on the inner part of our circle here. But another way you can do it is you can pick up, I don't know, 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever you think you can do easily. I just threaded my needle with several beads here. I'm going to let these drop down. And I'm going to lay them right next to the row that I just completed. Just like this. And I'm going to kind of hold those in place as I take my needle and pass down through the foundation right after the last bead that I added. Now, once you do this, you have to come back through and you have to come back up between the 2 rows. And every few beads, you're going to take the needle and you're going to pass down through the foundation on the other side of the bead. So that way, essentially, you're catching the thread between the beads. So I come up right here between this teal and white, and I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pass through the foundation on the other side, right past that teal and white. Just like that. And you can do this every 2 beads. It's to me, it's about the same amount of work either way. So it really doesn't matter. Completely up to you. I just like the way that this stitch looks when I'm actually stitching in the circular motion. Now, once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come back. I'm going to go through those beads again so that I'm coming out of that last bead. So you don't have to do this. I just like to do this to kind of keep everything together and looking nice. So I'll go through all the beads that I added in this little section, and then I'll add more. And now I know that mixes stress some people out so badly, but I love to work with a mix, and I don't care if 2 colors are side by side or if there's only 1 bead that separates a color. That does not bother me, because that's the point of having a mix and just being real, I don't know, not as, it's organized chaos. Let's put it that way. So you see here, I've got my beads. I'm going to lay them down, and I don't want them so tight they're going to pull over like this. I just want them to lay down right next to what I've got finished, and then take your needle down through the foundation, and then come back, and you can tell if you're not sure where you started there, you can pull your thread back and you can see I'm going to be starting at that purple and mint green colored bead there. So I just pull the thread back down, and I'm going to come back down here and then come in like that. So we want to continue to work this row and however many more rows that you want. I'm going to make it to match this first one that I did. So again, this first one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of beads. I'm going to go ahead and do my 5 rows, and I will be back with you in just a minute. As you work on your piece, you are going to run out of thread and will need to add thread. So to do that, I'm coming out on the back of the foundation, and you can see my threads here where I have been stitching on that back. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle, and very close to where my thread is exiting, I'm going to come under a thread or two right where it's exiting. I'm going to leave a little bit of a loop, and then I'm going to pass my needle through that loop. And I have a very short tail thread here, so I have to be careful. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go under a couple of the threads. I'm going to leave myself just a little tiny loop here, and then I'm going to pass the needle through the loop. And I'm going backwards again because I've got a little tiny tail thread. Now, before I trim this thread, I'm going to go ahead and pass it under several threads here. And then I will cut this thread. Now, once I cut the thread, then I will start a new piece of thread, and I'll do that real quickly. So you'll thread your needle with a new piece of thread, and I've gone ahead and put the knot here at the end of the thread. You'll want to find the spot where you finished. So my last bead is going to be this white bead right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back several beads. I'm going to come up through the foundation, and then I'm going to pass through the beads until I get to the one where I'm coming out and need to start again. And then I will continue working just as I have on the other rows. So once you have the amount of rows complete that you want for your earring, then you are ready to trim your piece. So I'm actually going to leave my working thread because I still have a good amount. And I'm just going to bring the working thread down through the foundation. And for now, I'll just kind of hold it off to the side as I work. So you'll want to take your scissors now, and we are going to cut around the edge. The thing is, when you cut, you want to be very careful not to cut any of the threads you have on the back of your piece. Okay, so it doesn't matter. You can go from the front or the back, but you just want to pay attention to where you are cutting and make sure that you're not cutting any of the threads that you have there. So you can see there where your threads are, and we're just going to trim around. One little, there we go. Okay, so when you trim this, you are going to look and think, oh my gosh, this looks wonky. But it's okay, because once you actually get the inner part and the outer edging done, it's going to completely transform the way that it looks. So this is where you're going to need your piece of Ultra Suede and your E6000. And again, I'm leaving this working thread. If you want to, you can get rid of it and add new thread when you're ready, but I'm just going to leave it. And before I do the glue, I'm going to go ahead and take the needle and kind of bring it towards the center of the beadwork here. Now I'm going to take the E6000 and I'm going to go right in the middle and add my glue. So I'm not adding any glue on the edges, just here in the center of the ring. And then I'm going to take it, lay it down. I'm going to put it on a hard surface and I'm going to press this down and let it dry for a little bit. And then I'm going to trim around the outer edge and this inside so that I have another just circular piece without all of the excess. Cutting around the outer edge is super easy, but when you do the inside, it's a little bit harder because you kind of have to poke a hole and cut. And it's hard to really get in on this side because of your beadwork. So I like to flip my piece over and kind of work from the back and just start taking little snips like this, because you will be able to feel the beadwork against your scissors. So I just kind of start taking it and coming in like this. And this just helps you to get closer to the beadwork itself and closer to matching where your foundation is cut. So you can come back in and you can get these little spots here where it looks like there's just a little bit excess. And you can go ahead and get that trimmed off so you don't have to worry about it. So now that looks much, much better, just going in from the back side and clipping some of those pieces. And you'll kind of tell, like right here, I've got maybe a little, little piece I could get. And right here a little bit. Okay. And there we go. And we're ready to start our edging. When you start the edging, we're going to start it here on the inner part of our earring. So I'm coming out of the foundation here on the inside of the ring, and I have threaded on 2 of my beads. So on the first stitch, we are going to take and we are going to come over a 2 bead width from where our thread is coming out. And the great thing is we have 2 beads in place there, so it's really easy to measure. And you'll see I'm coming through the foundation and the Ultra Suede both. Normally on a project, I like to use a brick stitch edging, but on this one, we're going to do a different type of edging. So if I'm going to do a brick stitch edging, I would come back in this direction and come up through the bead itself. But we don't want that. I want the beads to lay on their sides like these are here. So to do that, I'm just going to take the needle and I'm going to pass through the second bead that I added, which is going to be that mint green color. The first bead will not sit correctly until we get back around to it. So now I'm going to pick up 1 bead. I'm going to pass through both the Ultra Suede and the foundation right next to where my thread is coming out, a 1 bead width, and then I'm going to pass through the bead I just added so that it lays on its side as well. Go ahead and put my needle through. I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to take the needle and pass through the Ultra Suede and the foundation. And then pass through the bead just added. And you'll see how they're sitting on their sides, and that is exactly what we want. We want them to sit on their sides. Thread on 1 bead, pass through both layers, and then pass through the bead. And we are going to do this all the way around. Once you add the last bead here in the center that you can add for the round, all you're going to do to straighten up that first bead is just pass your needle straight through the bead. And I normally, just like the rest of the rows, I normally like to go around and just pass through all the beads of the row one more time, just so that they're all connected together, and it will straighten all of them up a little bit if you have one that maybe looks a little bit further apart from one or something to that effect. And I find it easiest to do this from the front of the beadwork and kind of then take my needle to the back of the beadwork like this. It just seems to make the process a little bit easier. But we're just going to continue to pass through until you've gone through all the beads here in the center. Once you've gone all the way around, then we're going to do something really easy to get here to the outside. From where I'm coming out here in the center, I'm just going to take my needle and I'm going to pass it under all of the beadwork that I have in place. I'm going to pass it through there. And then I'm going to pass through just the foundation. I'm not going through both layers. I'm just going through the foundation. And then right next to where my thread's coming out of that foundation, I'm just going to come up through the foundation right next to it. Okay, so now my thread is exiting out of the foundation and I can do the edging here on this outer spot. And we do the same thing. We pick up 2 beads to start. We come over a 2 bead width from where we're coming out. We go through both layers and then through the second bead. And then 1 bead, pass through the layers, and then through the 1 bead. And we're going to continue this all the way around. And then once you get all the way around, do just like we did here in the middle and go through the beads one more time. So once you've worked around your piece, it should look something like this. And you want to exit any one of these edge beads. Once you exit that, you are going to pick up 6 of your size 11 seed beads. So 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to skip 3 beads, 1, 2, 3, and then go through the 4th bead. And when you do that, that is going to give you a loop to hang your ear wire. Now, go ahead and pass through both layers of your foundation and Ultra Suede. Pass back through the white bead again. Through your 6 beads, because we want to reinforce them. And then I'll pass through the white bead that I was coming out of to start. And then I can go through and do that process again. So pass through both layers. Pass through the white bead there again. Then I will pass through my loop beads. And then I will pass through the white bead and a few more beads down the line. I'll go ahead and put a couple of little half hitch knots in between a few of the beads here. You only need one or two of these little half hitch knots, because we're going to pass through more beads with our working thread, and then we'll be able to just cut this off. Okay. So I'm going to snip that thread, and now I have the piece complete, and I can work on making a second to match. So those match up pretty well. So I'm really, really happy about how those match up and they look. So now let's add ear wires and complete the project. All right, I'll use my chain nose or flat nose pliers to open up the ear wire, thread it through that loop, close it, and then I have my new earring. So guys, I hope you enjoyed learning today's project. Remember, head over to offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com to download the free pattern that goes along with today's project. And while you're there, you can also grab one of the limited number of kits that we have for the project. We also have the size 11 Preciosa Summer Splash Seed Bead Mix that you seen me use in today's video. And we will put direct links to those right here under the video. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.